So today is going to be one of our last sessions, and then we will have little break because we're gonna start Nyung Ne Genetic Fasting Retreat from tomorrow. As you can see, a little bit shiny here, already set up, and so from tomorrow we're gonna start fasting retreat Nyung Ne. So therefore, until further notice, yes, most probably after the full moon finish, then we may able to do, yes. But I'm busy until 7th June, and so maybe after 7th June, then we can try to send you some further notice. Yes, we might send you some notice. So with that notice, we can still continue. Yes. So so now let's start our today's sessions with proper attitude of mind. As you know, the body and speech and mind. Body speech is just temporary things that is necessary until we leave. Once we leave this world, yes, body and we need to leave the body speech behind of us. Yes, we have to continue the mind, the attitude, or in mind, or the motivation that we have sort of accumulated, that kind of consciousness, whatever we have stored. Yes, so therefore this is so important. The mind becomes so important. Yes, primarily sort of like to pay attention. Yes, whatever we do. So therefore, body and speech activities, body and speech actions, they are very secondary level compared to the mind. So therefore, according to Buddha, Buddha, that body and speech we cannot keep forever, or they cannot follow forever. So in that regards, now we understand the mind, and that kind of consciousness is the most important. So whatever actions, whatever activities we do, whenever this kind of mind is mixed, and then it becomes very either the consequences take place in either in a positive or negative way. So now to make it positive, beneficial, now we first bring a good reason why we practice, why we want to, why we want to use the Buddha's teachings. Yes, why we want to meditate, why we want to use, or why we want to take the journey towards enlightenment. Yes. So follow, join these meditations. Follow with me. As we all biologically, or there's nothing to do with the Dharma or religions or belief. Fundamentally, every sentient beings, regardless of whatever beliefs, whatever religions, that doesn't matter, but fundamentally, every sentient beings possess kind of wish that to overcome from all the difficulties, one wish, and to obtain happiness. Since this is our fundamentally or biologically, we possess such a nature, almost like co-emergent. This regards that since we wish this kind of freedom or happiness and this kind of overcoming from the difficulties, sufferings, now Buddha, who was one of the human beings like us, having same intention, same wish, and finally attain the state of freedom, liberated from this samsara. So we also can attain same attainment, same state. For that, Buddha made a clear map for us to reach that destination as a path or dharma. So using that map, one can able to achieve or attain same realizations, same liberation. And for that, those who are already on the path or using that map, kind of expert, we need their support, we need their help. Such a way, we use the refuge of the Buddha Dharma Sangha, or in Vajrayana term, what Guru and protectors. As now Buddha said, if there is one Dharma, one phenomenon, then all the Dharma, all the result, all the fruitions are possible. If same Dharma, same phenomena is missing, then the enlightenment or permanent happiness or liberations is not possible. Therefore, we need to include that phenomenon, that Dharma, which is enlightened attitude of mind. Our body, speech, mind activities must be paved by this attitude, enlightened attitude of mind. carried by this kind of intention. Such as at the moment, we do not possess maximum capacity to benefit self and other beings, benefit self and our beloved family, friends to whom we love, care. Our capacity is limited. Our ability to serve, help, benefit is limited. So, with these Buddha's teachings, Dharma that we're going to listen, may these be cause to enlightenment, and may these be cause to dispel the darkness of ignorance, and through that knowledges and wisdom can gain the realizations. Then with that development, may we able to attain the state of awakened state, fully awakened state, where there is no limitation. As long as material object concerned, there is limitation. But the aspiration and the willpower, mind, attitude, intention, they do not have limitation. So we will use this time by listening these Buddha's teachings and the meditations that we're going to do. These will help us the journey towards enlightenment, which is so important to maximize our capacity, ability to benefit, to serve ourselves and others. So we did this proper cultivation, and now the remaining the listening, meditation will become very, very beneficial, source of immense merits and wisdom accumulation, source of immense purifications. Okay, so now now to start with our today's topic. As we know, journey towards enlightenment, whatever we are doing, the practice, Dharma, listening, cultivating compassion, kindness, love, everything falls under the practice of journey towards enlightenment. Earlier, we went through a series of different Buddhist teachings, started from the last month, Vaisak month. Where we talk about karma, different kinds of one's own actions, different kind of general actions, how the causes and effect functions, and the different kind of like karmic debts, the result, and relations, and so on, where we talk, one of these series, we talk about how important the emptiness and the view of non-self and the emptiness. They are so important for all the three attainment for the liberations, whether it is under the practice of the Theravada or Mahayana or Vajrayana. All these three attainment must have some degree of realization on emptiness. Without emptiness, no attainment, no result, as we went through earlier a bit. Now, today, we will talk about Buddha's teaching on emptiness, and we will meditate also some example how to meditate on emptiness. Yes. So to talk about emptiness, to bring, to give you some, I think, background that will help us to draw the teaching is authentic and direct from Buddha. As you know, the Buddha's teaching on emptiness, which is transmitted to us in this time, that is now present moment, that we are listening, studying, reading, contemplating, and different kind of meditations, and then we get result. That is now somehow transmitted to us by the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, the fourth Buddha. At what age Buddha gave this teaching, or the teaching on emptiness? When Buddha was 48 years. Until 48 years, Buddha was giving more about the conventional level of the teachings. And then when Buddha was 48 years, then Buddha started to give teaching on emptiness. And then Buddha, before Buddha passed away or passed into nirvana, parinirvana, like three years before, then Buddha gave the teaching on Vajrayana, connection to that Vajrayana of the clear light. Which clear light, luminosity, sort of like, which can combine with the practice of the subtle prana, nadi, bintu, with the six dhatu, 6 elements, possessing the 6 elements that we can use. However, out of these different kind of teachings, the teaching on emptiness is one of the most important teaching. And of course, Buddha was clear about the view of the emptiness. And depending on the propensity of the beings, Buddha taught different kind of emptiness teachings. And then all these emptiness teachings if we go through different kind of the Buddha's teachings, I think, so vast about the emptiness teachings. However, these all emptiness teachings, now when we put it into different kind of basket, different kind of collections of the basket, different kind of categories. So teaching on emptiness, or which we talk about the wisdom of perfections, yes? Perfection of wisdom, where commonly we sort of like, we have sort of like perfection of wisdom called 100,000 verses, yes? 100,000 verses, which is considered as a quite intensive and vast. Of course, it doesn't mean that exactly there are 100,000 verses. There are more than 100,000 verses, but it is called 100,000 verses, which is very vast and extensive of the teaching on emptiness given there. And then little sort of like intermediate sort of like teaching on emptiness, what we call is 20,000 verses. Yes, perfection of wisdom in 20,000 verses. And then perfection of wisdoms in 8,000 verses. 20,000 verses doesn't mean exactly 20,000 as well. Like there are more than 20,000, but however, it's called 20,000 verses. And then wisdom perfections, or perfection of wisdoms, 8,000 verses. So basically, you can put it into three different kind of collections or baskets or categories, all the emptiness teachings. And within these three sort of like the basket or categories of these perfection of wisdom's teaching, then it is divided into, yes, one as intermediate and abbreviated versions, or and extensive versions. Yes, they are divided into three different divisions: extensive, intermediate, and abbreviated versions. Yes, version of perfection of wisdoms. So, and in the context of this extensive, it is subdivided into three, again, subdivisions. They are extensive of extensive, extensive of intermediate, extensive of abbreviated versions. Similarly, intermediate of extensive, intermediate of intermediate of intermediate, intermediate of abbreviated versions or form of the perfection of wisdom's teachings. Then third, finally, abbreviated of extensive, abbreviated of intermediate, abbreviated of abbreviated versions. Yes, so now you see within these there are three subdivisions, which is divided into like that. Within the three subdivisions, now there are 9 sort of like subdivisions. So all the Buddha's teachings on emptiness divided into such a way. Yes, and and now here, as a study and as a and the meditations purpose to bring all these, different kind of like categories of the emptiness teachings. For we use Abhidharma Alankara as one of the best reference to these meditational teachings, and for study. Yes, Abhidharma Alankara is very, very helpful for such a this kind of emptiness meditation teaching or study. Yes. Then now in earlier in in India, there's also sort of like, how do you say, the shortest or the most abbreviated teaching on emptiness, such as like single line of perfection of wisdoms. You know, there's no sort of many verses, just a single line of perfection of wisdoms, just a single line of teachings, which is done now, let's say, the most abbreviated versions of form. You see. So, however, these emptiness teaching starts when Buddha was giving the teachings, start with the 5 excellences. Yes. Usually, the excellences of the time. One time, I heard this teaching. Buddha was giving this teaching, teaching on emptiness. Once, when Buddha was 48 years, that time. Only one time I heard. It shows the excellences of the capacity of the Bodhisattva. Capacity, and it shows that this was given by Buddha at such a time, when Buddha was 48 years old. And then excellences of the, who gave these teachings? Oh, I heard Buddha was giving the teachings. Teaching on emptiness, Buddha was. The historical Buddha Shakyamuni was giving. So the second excellences of the teacher or the Buddha. Yes. Third, where Buddha gave these teachings of the emptiness teachings, of perfection of wisdom teachings. Yes. Perfection of wisdom teaching. Then Raja Griha. Yes. And whose Raja means king. Yes. And Raja Griha, where the king was located, place called. This is not sort of like such a very big kingdom or something like that. This is the King Bimbisara ruler area, or the kingdom of the King Bimbisara used to be. Yes, like, and you know, now here's a story about Rajagriha. This is important to know, because we most of people think, oh, Buddha gave these teachings and such a king palace or something like that. Not like that. Yes. So King Bimbisara, the kingdom of King Bimbisara, and one time that at the time that evil spirits are causing lots of turbulence of the problems in King Bimbisara kingdom, or that area, such as causing lots of problems, such as burning houses. Yes, every day there are some houses are burning, you know, burned by fire. And then King Bimbisara was very fed up and angry, and then he was thinking the solutions, what to do. Yes, and then King thought, well, it is maybe because of the evil spirit, but at the same time, it is also lacking the responsibility, or it is irresponsible sort of like of the house owner themselves. Because if you really take care, then this wouldn't happen. So King sort of like had this kind of idea or this kind of thought, and then King decided, okay, now King decided to make an announcement saying that everyone should protect their house. Yes, protect their house. If he or she fails, fails to protect or guard the house from the burning, then he or she may fail a sentence. Yes, he or she may fail sentence such as like punishment. That the owner of the house whose house was burned, if yes, then he or she must go to cemetery for certain period. Yes, as an announcement was being made. So King made this kind of announcement, and the punishment was like he or she must go to cemetery for a certain time if his or her house is burned. Yes, burned by fire or caused by this evil spirit. Because some part, if you really take care, then you can also, prevent this kind of like burning away. Yes. So after that is that announcement was made, and then interesting thing is that next house was the king palace. King palace was caught on fire, and then that time is different. Nowadays, maybe king says something, but then after something happened to king, then king wouldn't say, okay, now this doesn't, how to say, this doesn't, I think king would say something else, maybe change, the law, or this doesn't apply to king or to president or to prime minister, whatever. But that time is, once king said, king also followed that sort of like law or rules and regulations. So since the king palace was caught on fire, and then king said, yes, I said that was the punishment. Now I have to go to the cemetery. So King Bimbisara, yes, went from the palace to the cemetery, all right? Cemetery where king was staying. And at that time, that is placed, now that cemetery area is the Rajagiriha. So, so of course, there were lots of different kind of like mountains, some of us, we also know that the Buddhas gave the Paranjaparamita teachings. What we are talking is the very short form, short version of that. What we are talking is a short version. Short version is like this Paranjaparamita, the sutra, the way we usually go to vulture peak, all the body and the head and this mountain or this area looks like vulture, therefore vulture peak. Yes, we talk about that. So in fact, Rajagriha, that becomes now the Rajagriha, and then nearby this kind of vulture peak. Yes, and the Buddha gives so many different kind of like the teaching on emptiness. What we talk about Paranjaparamita or the short sort of like a Heart Sutra is a very short. Okay, that is now very short. But now basically there are like extensive teaching on emptiness, which is called 100,000 verses. Very extensive teaching on emptiness, and then 20,000 verses, also quite extensive. Not so short, we have few pages, and then 8,000. So divided into these three different kind of teaching on emptiness. Yes, we put into these three categories. So however, then that the excellences of the place is like that, Rajagriha, yes, and then excellences of the Dharma, the teaching that can lead us to liberations, whether it's a Theravada or Mahayana or Vajrayana, emptiness teaching must be there. Emptiness, without emptiness meditations, the defilement or obscurations of the what it obstructs for the attainment cannot be achieved. So therefore, emptiness is so important here. But now here refers more about the enlightenment, the teachings that can lead us to enlightenment. Yes, state of enlightenment, state of fully awakened state. Yes, that is called the excellences of the Dharma teachings. And then and so Buddha, these teachings, Buddha was in the meditative sort of state. Yes, Buddha was in the samadhi or meditative state called profound and appearance meditative state. Is called profound and appearance sort of meditative state. Buddha was in that kind of meditative state, and then the teaching started with the blessing of the Buddhas through this meditative state to the Shariputra, yes, the Arhat Shariputra, and the great Bodhisattva Chandrasekhara, Avalokiteshvara, yes, Konyimfusa. Through the Buddha's blessing, the Chandrasekhara and Shariputra was urged through the Buddha's meditations, yes, samadhi, that they talk about this emptiness, teaching on emptiness. So actually Buddha, as an enlightened being or as a Buddha, there's no different time of meditation, time of post meditations. No, there's no different kind of like this kind of like as human being we do have. But since Buddha was in a human form, yes, then when Buddha was meeting with other people, when Buddha was having audience, when Buddha was eating, when Buddha was walking, when Buddha was, traveling, when Buddha was, like giving teachings, that time usually is called post-meditation state, yes. And when beside that, when Buddha has also time to meditate, that time nobody can ask something or nobody can reach Buddha because Buddha was in the meditative state. So it happens exactly such a time, that time Buddha was in a meditation state. And then through the meditation state, Buddha blessed Chandasik and Shariputra and to talk about the emptiness, teaching of emptiness. That's how it started. So it's very important to know that in emptiness started how, where, yes, with whom, yes, then with whom, so many different kind of like sangha, yes, sangha, sangha, and so many different kind of the bodhisattvas, yes, and sangha and bodhisattvas. Sangha, now here, sangha also can be bodhisattva, sangha also can be bhikshu. Okay, there are two. Okay, sangha is a general sort of term, but bhikshu as a Theravada bhikshu, bodhisattva as a Mahayana is sangha. So bhikshu or sangha of bhikshu, sangha of Mahayana, or sangha of the bodhisattvas. You can refer that way, understand that way. So so many different kind of bhikshu of this, the sangha of the sangha, bhikshu sanghas, and so many different kind of bodhisattvas, such as Chandasik, yes, Avalokiteshvara, yes. So in that way, yes. Therefore, Buddha was in the meditative state, and then when that profound state, Samadhi Buddha then urged Shariputra, Chandasik, and then Mongol Buddha, Shariputra and the Chandasik, Buddha blessed through this meditation, and then started to talk about the teaching of emptiness. Yes. So when we then with these excellences, then started the teaching. And then Shariputra asked to Chandasik, since Buddha was in a meditative state, cannot ask directly to the Buddha because Buddha was in a meditative state. Then Shariputra asked Chandasik, yes, how one can practice, how one should practice, how one can practice, yes, if one wish to follow the Buddha's way, if one wish to enter the great path of bodhisattvas, yes, the great path towards path that leads us to the enlightenment, complete enlightenment, complete state of enlightenment, yes, how one should start, how one should do, how one needs to, practice, meditate, so on. Then Chandasik, through the blessing of the Buddha, Chandasik answered then, yes, if one wish to, Chandasik answered, if one wish to cross the ocean of the samsara, yes, if one wish to attain the state of the complete, realizations or enlightenment, state of enlightenment, that is the way one should follow. How? Like we meditate, like we gain the realization, like Shariputra and Chandasik both have fully realized or gained the realizations of no self, or the realization of emptiness on the self-existence. Similarly, that the way we understand, the way we gain the realization of no self, similarly, we have to also meditate and understand all the others aggregates, others psychophysical 5 aggregates also. They are also, you know, same like that we figure out how the self and I is do not exist, doesn't exist. The realization that began from the emptiness, meditation on emptiness, such a way, remaining 5 aggregates is also one should meditate. That is how the teaching on emptiness started, like that. So in that way, then how one should start now, right? Now, according to Buddha's teachings, Buddha talked about we should start these meditations on the emptiness, yes, through when we experience any kind of like sight, we tend to feel that, oh, I saw this, I saw that, like especially the grosser level of the object, yes, any kind of objects basically, but of course the grosser level such as building, high-rise building, or mountain, or trees, forest, road, houses, and so on. But very sort of like subtle sort of like level of the objects or phenomena are more difficult to, how to say, meditate on, or understand on, or see on, or know on. Yes. So therefore, what it says here is that as we experience any kind of sight here and there, is that we assume that apart from the physical senses through which we see, there is a seer. There's someone who sees. Yes, there's a seer. The object is the object and the actions. And then now here is that we need to, Buddha advised that we need to meditate. How? Buddha advised that in terms of the subtlety levels, that one should engage into meditation on emptiness, terms on the subtlety level. So first, Buddha said first, let's meditate on the form. Buddha said one should meditate on form to meditate on. All kind of forms are obviously easier to meditate, as Buddha said that, because let's say there's an empty sort of like, there's an empty space or ground. Once we build a sort of like house on that ground, empty ground, then actually it is a form. Form meaning it obstructs others' form to now build on or stay on same sort of like ground. That is the meaning of form here. Indeed, the form meaning here is. So once you build or you have something on the sort of like empty space, then others' object cannot be built or cannot be there, cannot stay there, cannot, So that's how the form is. Very obvious, yes. So that's why Buddha said, start with the meditation on form. Now, how to start the meditation on form? So maybe I think better we do meditation way, not only the theory sort of like way of sort of passing the sort of sharing the teaching of Buddhas, but more about meditation. So let's meditate. Then through the meditation you will understand. Yes, let's meditate now. Close eyes, open eyes, whatever you are comfortable with. Okay. Let's meditate now. For example, any kind of form, such as house, very obvious to see. Or houses, cars, human beings, our house, our offices, roads, all kind of these kind of objects in everyday life that we relates to, which seems so real, so tangible, very solid and concrete. Now we reflect these kind of houses, cars, offices, roads deeply. Let's reflect deeply. This kind of concreteness and solidity that we have imposed on them is more about construct. Reality of these phenomenon is that they are thoroughly dependent. Reality of these phenomenon is that they are thoroughly dependent. Even our concept of, let's say, a house or car already supposed to be many other concepts that are part of it. But in our naive way of relating to the world, we tend to look at these as if these are independent silos or discrete things, such as snooker or pool balls, different kind of colors, balls hitting each other. We grasp upon them, we impose upon them reality way beyond what they possess, and pointing out these through the teaching on emptiness. So when we meditate like this, there's another possibility of danger, is that our mind, anything that we find beneficial, useful, helpful, then our tendency is immediately grasping on to that one. Now, form is this kind of house or this kind of car, human road, whatever form that we meditate on. Indeed, is emptiness. If this is the case, emptiness must be true and real and absolute. Then we have a tendency to grasp on such an emptiness that kind of emptiness, that is great danger. When we meditate, when we find out those houses, those buildings, those roads, cars, humans, their reality is something else than what we conceive, what we see. And that reality is emptiness. And Buddha said, emptiness is also a form. Emptiness is also that building, those buildings, those houses, those roads, those cars, any kind of forms. That is the medicine Buddha gave. The ultimate truth of thing, although that is the ultimate truth, but the ultimate truth is only true in relation to everyday objects. So it is not something that is like standing outside, independent, transcendent. So with this way, Buddha gave teaching on emptiness, Buddha taught about emptiness. Again, the relation is drawn back like there is no form other than emptiness. There is no car other than emptiness. There is no house other than emptiness. There is no road other than emptiness. There is no sort of solid table other than emptiness. So it's really then that identity relationship is even being drawn stronger, so that no room is left where there is even a tiniest possibility of grasping to such a reality of that kind of emptiness, either on to the everyday world of objects, there's no room left, whether there's even a tiniest possibility to grasp either to the everyday world of object or to the emptiness of their thing. And that's the way of, in some senses, like using emptiness as a medicine. Using emptiness like as a medicine to cure our grasping at these kind of cars, forms, houses, buildings, and so on. But emptiness becomes medicine here. But if we grasp to that emptiness, then it can become poisons. So therefore, medicine to cure our grasping is using another medicine to cure the potential of grasping at emptiness. So same medicine used for potential of grasping at emptiness itself, so that medicine does not turn into poison. So that's how one should meditate. Buddha said, that's how one should meditate. So to summarize that, like we meditated on now, houses, buildings, roads, tables, cars. Similarly, one should meditate on feeling. And then one should meditate on perception. Perception, and then one should meditate on formation, and then consciousness. More and more subtle, more and more subtle. So therefore, in order to meditate others aggregates, first one should meditate on the very obvious and grosser level of these kind of form. So let's imagine, let's meditate again, another meditation, another sort of like another number 2 meditation on number 2, second meditation, such as let's meditate that he or she wants to buy a diamond, which is not real, which is not real diamond, but she projects that it is real diamond, and it's so wonderful to have this diamond to us. And she projects and dreams, think so many different kind of like incredible, unbelievable projections being met, having such a diamond. If he or she possesses, it will be like he or she will be in the, I don't know, like sort of heaven. Since he or she projects the unreal on the fact diamond as a real, so valuable, for that he or she visits the shop, visits the shop again and again, because he or she doesn't have enough money to buy such a diamond. And for that, he or she will cheat, deceive, lie, kill, such as like killing actions and so on. So many different kind of negative actions. Once he or she gets this diamond now, after doing so many kind of different kind of negative actions and harming and killings and so on, once he or she gets these diamonds, what happens? Just few days, it's like he or she is in a very high dose of alcohol, like a honeymoon for several days, several times, short times. And then once know the reality of the diamond, which is not real diamond, then that time he or she landed to the surface of the problems and sufferings everything turns into problems and sufferings and so on. Indeed, that is one's own actions result, one's own projections result. What's wrong here? That he or she really need such a diamond or not? Before he or she puts effort, projects unreal diamond as a real diamond, precious diamond, it is necessary or not? Why he or she wants that? Because of greed that made him or her work like machines and deceive and hurt so many people and killing and so on. That's how we become slave of material walls if we fail to meditate on emptiness or recognize the emptiness nature. And that's how we lose that's how all the most important things that supposed to be done in our life, we fail to accomplish, we fail to do these important things. And Buddha's teaching on emptiness, further commentary in some philosophy said that the form, all kind of forms is like, they are like empty pot. All kind of forms, they are like empty pot. All kind of forms, they are like empty pot. And all kind of feelings, pain and pleasure, are like the raw material of the food supposed to cook in that empty pot. All kind of pain and pleasure are like raw material of the food supposed to cook in that empty pot. And all kind of perceptions that we label good, bad, yellow, red, colors, shapes, taste, everything are like seasoning and the taste for that food. And all kind of formations is like the cook is himself or herself who makes or who cooks the food. And finally, the consciousness is like the person for whom this food was prepared. So here, what we can, through these meditations, what we can see is the, out of all these psychophysical aggregates, we oriented too much on the physical form, all kind of material world, value, things, followed by the perceptions, formations, feelings. But we fail to focus and think about the most important aggregate such as consciousness. Consciousness is the one all are prepared for, all these food were prepared for. But we failed to put value on consciousness. Followed by, we have to meditate as now the great Shantideva said. Shantideva said that to examine our hand, there are two different levels. One, as we see the hand, if we examine, search the reality of the hand, every part of the fingers thoroughly, then we can see that something else, or that we do find something else. Then what we perceive, that what we think, what we perceive, what we project. So one as we think, as we see, as we perceive. Another is through the examinations that we find out something else. Which one is the hand? When we meditate, Shantideva, the great Shantideva said in Bodhisattva Charyavatara, is the small finger is the hand or not? The ring finger is the hand or not? Middle finger is the hand or not? Index finger is the hand or not? Thumb is the hand or not? Palm is the hand or not? What is the hand or not? Thoroughly, if we investigate, analyze, there we find out another reality as contrary to we see and we feel and we conceive, we perceive. Same as the destructive emotions, afflictions, hatred, anger, jealousy, ignorance, such as these afflictions, they arise, they have certain degree of intensity, but they are lacking true independent existence that we fail to recognize. Those hatred, anger looks very, when they arise, looks very certain sort of degree of intensity, looks very, he or she becomes very red, shouting and so on, but they are lacking the true of independent existence. So when we meditate on emptiness, first it's important to meditate on any kind of like physical objects such as houses, building, road, like that. Then gradually to the feeling, to the perceptions, formations, and then consciousness. Now, since we don't have time to meditate everything, now we come to the last part of the meditations, that is consciousness or I or self, me, I, consciousness. Let's meditate to this consciousness. Now, where is this consciousness? Let's meditate. Within our body or not? Let's meditate first within our body. Is I or visual consciousness is the mind or consciousness or not? That is self, that is I, that is consciousness. or the ear, auditory sense. Is that consciousness? Is that mind? Is that I? Is that me? Is that self? Nose, gustatory sense. Is that consciousness? Is that I? Is that self? Or the body, tactile sense? Is that consciousness? Is that I? Is that me? Is that self? If one of these are consciousness or me or I, then what happens when these minds or consciousness or self are ceased or doesn't function actively during the dream state? If they are one consciousness, then during the dream state and the deep sleeping state, they do not function actively. They are ceased. They do not function actively during the dream state and deep sleeping state. Since they do not function and they are ceased during the dream state, can we say he or she is dead? Can we say he or she is no more with us? Because if that is the consciousness, if that is me, that is self, that is I, that is mind, so they are no more functioning. They are ceased during the dream state and the deep sleeping state. If he or she is no more with us during the dream state and deep sleeping state, then we can bury him or her body. We can cremate it. We can do the cremation of his or her body, because the mind or consciousness, so what we called so-called consciousness mind is or are ceased, no more functioning. Probably we also agree that if someone is sleeping or in dreaming, he or she, if he or she is cremated, we may end up with jail. We may get murder charges. That means we clearly know I consciousness is not self, not I, not mind. Similarly, the nose and so on that we have just went through. Then if this is not the consciousness of me or mind or I, what about then the brain? Maybe brain is the mind or self or I, as scientists earlier said. But there, with the Buddhist teachings, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist science, Buddhist logic, says that if we believe the brain is I or mind or consciousness, when we examine the brain, detail about the brain, one can find contrary to that, and instead of that, one can find out that there isn't any central authority like I or self or mind or soul or consciousness, which now recently scientists also agreed there isn't any central authority. So scientists also agreed, and then now they do not say brain is mind. Before they used to say mind is, when they want to point out mind is on brain, but now they do not. So now there's a subtle, really subtle sort of like mind. Even it functions actively during the dream state, deep sleeping state, fainting state. Even one dies, even someone is dead, still, if he or she is dead, still, if that subtle mind of consciousness or inner subtle energies is within our body, still body remains very fresh for 3, 7, 8, 13, 12, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, years like that. An example recently that I share with you, the Anin Chodun, Tenzin Chodun, the female practitioners who passed away, and everybody nearby, both Buddhists and non-Buddhists, witness that kind of after-death meditations. She was clinically dead, but her body remained fresh, no smell. Now, in India, it's quite hot and warm weather, but still, no smell, kind of fresh. And then everybody able to see Buddhist people, they went to pay respect, and then Indian media, they went to check, so on. So that time, Buddhists and Buddhists, we explain there is still another level of mind. What we can gain through the meditation and the practice, the clear light, the practice of what we are doing now, and the reality of the nature, meeting time. One can meet, one can meditate, one can stay that meditation even after time of death. Then one can able to stay, such as sort of like Tukdam. So one can speak about this subtle state of mind becoming manifest in the sense of consciousness, or remain unmanifest with no consciousness on the part of individual. So it's quite difficult for scientists to understand, but we have full teaching given by Buddha, especially in Tantra. However, there is still, even we meditate, where is I, where is my mind, where is I, where is me, then where is my mind, where is my this, where is my that. Yes, there is this kind of, my body is there, my feeling is there, I feel that, I feel pain, I feel pleasure, I feel, good, I feel bad, like that, everything is there. Yes. That is why the reality or the existence of I or me or self can only be established within a framework which is unanalyzed and examined. Now the emptiness, the very crucial point of emptiness understanding is this. The reality of the existence of I or me or self can only be established within a framework which is unanalyzed and unexamined. However, if we go beyond that and search for some kind of object or essence, then they all turn out to be unfindable. Now this is the reality. This is the emptiness. So according to that, the four Buddhist school of thought, Vaibhashika, meaning of prominent of discrete entities, Sautrantika, traditionist school of philosophy, and sort of like school that it is reliance on the sutras rather than the Abhidharma. And then the third, mind school, mind only school, Chitta Matra, yes, Chitta Matra. That is Mahayana school of Buddhist philosophy, propagated by the great masters Asanga, and founded like this kind of teaching founded in Langavatra Sutra, and the scriptures. Its main premise is that all phenomena are only mind, Nothing exists the other than mind. If there is something exists, it must be findable. Since it's not findable, there isn't any external object. Only mind is there. That kind of, And Madhyamika, the fourth Madhyamika school, middle way school, adherent of the Madhyamika system that which is free from the extreme of the eternalism and nihilism. So free from the both eternalism and nihilism. Then unite the two truths, conventional level truth, ultimate level truth, unite them. So in fact, the emptiness that we are meditating on, the emptiness we want to really find out, the emptiness that really matters. In fact, there are now, that is what we just went through the meditations as we talked earlier, one way. Another way, maybe a little easier to understand the emptiness and meditate on. There are two different kind of dependent originations. Through this, we can also see the reality of emptiness. Yes, dependent originations. Yes, according to all the four Buddhist schools just now we talked, they all commonly agree or commonly sort of understand and agree that dependent origination is based on the law of causality, causes and effect, result. Yes. So which means whatever is born has to be arising from cause and therefore the cause and effect, they are dependent upon each other. This is now the very important understanding of emptiness. How we understand emptiness, such a way. Yes. And then second sort of like understanding of emptiness is plus that. This is now the commonly every Buddhist school agree and understand. Yes. They say that whatever is born has to be arising from the cause, and therefore cause and effect, they are dependent upon each other. Okay, law of causality, cause and effect. Yes, but now the second is more subtle, and on the case of just now what we talked, top of the exerting their possibility of dependent origination on the bias, sort of like basis of the law of causality. But now here is added is they also said that something which is like how do you say, something which is whole has its parts, like I has body, my body parts like two hands, two legs, heads, ears, like this, and the parts. Yes, and part and whole, they are dependent on each other. They are dependent upon each other. So that understanding of dependent origination is enhanced here. Yes. So in Partha, what is this? Paticamupatra, there it talk about the deeper meaning of that. The things depend upon each other, interdependency, cause and effect. Yes. Obviously, effect entirely depends on cause. Now, even effect depends on cause, not only human intelligence can know or prove. Even animal beings also know that. Therefore, they really, go after the effect first, and then they enjoy the result. Yes, the effect, the cause, how do you say, the effect entirely depends on the cause that that human being knows, animal beings also knows. Yes, the effect is entirely depends on cause. So therefore, we go really do everything, whatever we want to enjoy later on. Yes, first we have to find out the cause, then the effect or result comes. Animal even know that. But now here is another point of emptiness that is added here is the great Madhyamika sort of like teacher, or the Nagarjuna. Yes, Nagarjuna stated in the Madhyamika philosophy that it's a basis understanding that the result has to be arisen from the cause. Because of that, result is depend upon the cause. When we analyze deeper, then we also understand that when it has to be a cause, it should have result. Without result, we can't confirm or say that something is a cause. With this understanding, cause is also depends on the now effect. Cause is also depends on, before we only know effect is different or result is depends on the cause. Now, cause is also depends on the, like how do you say, cause is also depends on the result now. Because without the results, the cause is no more cause. Yes, so that's how the deeper sort of understanding. So now here one may sort of like one may have sort of like different kind of thought may arise, such as, oh, does it mean cause come from effect? No. Result comes from effect? Yes. Cause come from effect? No. But very concerned of cause happen to be because of the effect. That's the relation, the dependent or interdependency or dependent originations. The very concern of cause happen to be because of the effect. Without effect, reality of cause cannot exist. Yes, that's for sure. Without effect, the reality of cause cannot exist. So the fact that cause and effect are dependent upon each other. So the understanding of the dependent origination is enhanced here in the second level. As common understanding of dependent origination is based on law of causality is always everybody understand, even the animal. But here, absence of the independent existence is emptiness. Yes, perfection of wisdom is why Buddha drawing sort of equivalent, almost like identity relation between form and emptiness. Form is here only an example, because like when we just give an example, like houses or cars or buildings and so roads and so on, just an example. Okay, Buddha also gave in the first teaching, one must meditate on form in order to understand the emptiness. Start with the form as an example, then followed by others aggregates. So like that. Yeah. So so now I think. Okay, so I think this is now the teaching on emptiness. Hope you understand a little bit. It's not that immediately that you will get the realization, but you already have the test now. You already have the understanding. But that understanding now you have to apply again and again, to everyday lives, yes, everyday our lives. Then emptiness test can get more and more. That will help us, in many ways, in many ways, all kind of problems, sufferings, difficulties that we are going through, even including the sickness such as coronavirus or whatever, everything. Then we get a different dimension, different sort of like solutions, the benefits. So, however, we will stop for this time, and then from tomorrow we're going to start the Yungne, and then after we've completed everything, then we will continue the remaining teachings and so on. So until then, I wish all of you all kind of problems now what we're having basically because of this kind of tendency, this kind of like misunderstanding, this kind of misprojection, this kind of greediness, this kind of, you know, like less of compassion, less of kindness, less of love, less of all kind of this kind of lack of lacking these kind of things. Yes. So therefore, I think it's important, such as the Buddha's teaching, such as emptiness, is so helpful. Yes, like that, and that will release our sorrow problems. That will also release and help others' problems in grosser level. Okay, so I wish you all very good. As Buddha Shanti, as Shantideva said, we cannot probably save whole world at this moment. But first, we cannot put whole sort of like road, yes, as a very peaceful and very beautiful and full of flowers and full of sort of like full of sort of like, how would you say, let's say make very, very beautiful and there's no sort of like stone that can harm our feet. But if we put our feet in protected sort of like shoes or something like a sandal or shoes, then with that shoes and sandal, we can walk everywhere. Even though there are even an uneven road, even though there are some harmful sort of like dangerous sort of road, if once our feet is protected, then we can walk. At the same time, then we can help others. Yes, so that is important to understand. Yes, that's how one should carry, and then we will continue the teachings after the Yongne and so on. All right, so wish you have a very good and meaningful Sakadawa. Continue. Still, we have more than a week. Yes, so we dedicate that whatever we have accumulated varies from these teachings, maybe all, yes, accomplish the state of the Buddhahood, in that state of enlightenment for the well-being of all sentient beings. Okay. Okay, then everybody take care.